make sure that on YouTube it actually goes live.
I'll keep track of the comments as per usual.
Okay. Because yeah, I just realized, Gary, we didn't put down anything for anybody to ask us questions this time around. So
yeah, I'll make sure I do that for the next one.
Okay. But yeah, it looks like we are live. So what is up, my bros? It's your boy 2KROs here, back with another episode of Bugz2Men. This is episode 4, 0101010101010101010101010101010101010101010101010101010101010101010101010101010101010101. You're gonna talk all things about 01.
I think Reggie's broken as per usual.
Error. I'm sorry, the number you have dialed is no longer in service.
Free will denied.
I have a funny story that we'll talk about later on when we talk a little bit more about the AI in this show. But as you guys can see, we are joined by some very special guests today. We have KaijuCarl from Tokunon and Sono, aka Mamafriesmeal. I know that she's on a couple of other podcasts. So why don't you guys go ahead and introduce yourself?
Go ahead, Sono. Take it away.
Oh, thank you. Hi, I'm Sono, Mamafriesmeal, Karate Bug Mom. I am known by far too many names. I never bothered to solidify my branding. I started out kind of as a Tumblr tokusatsu personality, moved to Twitter at some point. I am the co-host of both Uncommon Cast RX and Laser Knees, which are episode coverage and analysis. We do 2 episodes a week. We alternate shows every week. We don't have a very good release schedule because I'm busy and bad at editing. But those are the shows that I do. Trial of Heroes at WordPress. trialofheroes.wordpress.com is where you can find our shows. That's me. I talk about tokusatsu on Twitter a lot. That's probably how you know me if you do.
Awful release schedule, so I feel you on that one. I'm Carl.
That's why we're live. That's why we're a live show and not an edited one.
Yeah, it's
Fair
bad.
enough.
It gets rough. A lot of adulting is hard. Adulting is very hard.
Yeah.
Fee's in the chat. Hi, Fee.
Hi, Fee.
Hello. What's up, brother?
So yeah, I run Tokunon. My co-host Rob. We have a bunch of other people on, like the fantastic Bugz2Men dudes were on last week. We talked about Sentai. We talk about a lot of stuff. It's really just about getting people together, talking about Toku, some friends hanging out. That's really the main shtick of it. Just some friends hanging out, talking Toku. And tomorrow we're going to have some more stuff about the fires that are happening in the fandom right now, but we'll save that for another time. That's not our topic for today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, real quick, Reggie, you have something you wanted to announce for our next episode? We're announcing it early, people.
Yeah, so next weekend, or the next weekend that we're going to be doing this, May 29th, I won't be here. I'll be actually visiting some family. So Gary's actually going to be leading an episode, and the topic is something that, is obviously not supposed to be. I mean, this show is primarily Kamen Rider themed, but next week is all. Well, not just Go Kaiju, but Gary's going to be leading a Sentai themed episode for May 29th. I said next week. I mean 2 weeks from now. See, that's we're talking about the whole release schedule.
Time is favorite.
But you will have a good number of guests on there, and Gary, like later on our social media, be sure to let the people know who they're going to expect to see.
Should I? All right. No, you know what, Reggie? I'm just gonna blow the lid off of this. I'm just gonna tell y'all right now, speaking directly to the camera and like the 5 people who are watching, who my guests are. We have Shenix. We have Gem. We have Sentai 5. And we have the #1 toy reviewer on the internet, in his own mind, my father, J-Man.
There you go. That's what's up.
Right. Yeah, so that will be happening on the 29th. And then after that will be an episode where I lead, because Gary, I guess, will be out of town. But I got to still decide on the topic of that. But this episode is all about 01. So
I thought we were talking about Kamen Rider Ghost.
I mean, I have the stuff down there on that shelf if you want, but we can bring back Carl. We'll bring back Carl for that, and Sono as well. We get to do that.
I gotta dig.
I would love to talk about Ghost. I have a lot of opinions on Ghost. Good ones. I love Ghost.
My hoodie is in the closet somewhere. I don't remember where I put it, but I have it in there.
All my opinions on Ghost are negative. That's besides the point.
I mean, I'll go to bat for Ghost, but I'm not gonna say it's without problems. So
yeah. So well, like I said, we're here to talk 01. So of course, 01. Everybody is the first entry of the Reiwa era. It like literally started the new era after Geo ended. So guys, obviously, that was actually like now a year or two ago when it was first announced. What were your guys' first thoughts about it? I mean, when you first heard the announcement of 01.
I'm going last. Whoever wants first.
I guess I will because mine, I guess, is fairly short. I generally tend to avoid pre show content, press releases and stuff at this point, just due to a lot of factors over the years. So my very first reaction, my first experience with 01 was about a week before it started airing. And I was in Tokyo at the time. Actually, I was in Chiba when this happened. The first thing I saw, I found a Toys R Us in Chiba, and they had the belt on display. And the first thing I thought was, "This is cool. Why does it look like a gaming mouse?"
That's fair. That's a fair assessment.
That is the best
Right
take
back.
for the belt.
So I saw that and I really didn't think about it much. And then my first real experience was watching the first episode in the apartment I was staying in Shinjuku on TV as it was airing. That was my very first real experience with 01, which was very cool. I could immediately tell who the writer was just by kind of the pacing and the gags. Like, I'm watching, I'm like, this is Takahashi Yuya, isn't it? And I was really excited by the first episode. I thought it looked cool. And then as I was leaving to fly back to the US, they're going into my terminal. On either wall, there was two huge murals of Rider on one side and Sentai on the other.
Awesome.
And the Rider mural was Ichigo, Kuga, and 01.
That's cool.
The beginners of all three eras.
That's amazing.
And I remember looking at it, I mean, like, I hope this show is as good as that first episode was, because I'm gonna relate it to this trip forever. And it's so much more than that to me now, but it was this really cool experience just seeing that and having that moment of, I really hope that this show has all of the potential that I see in it.
Yeah.
So you set those expectations real high right out the gate, is what you're saying.
Yeah, I mean, the timing, and especially, I didn't really enjoy Zio that much. I actually haven't even finished Zio. I haven't seen the last like 5 episodes. So I was like, okay, Kamen, it's coming out of the gate strong. It has a lot of potential. It is existing in this very important moment for me. And I'm hoping it'll live up to this. And it surpassed any expectations I could have had for it.
Definitely. Yeah, I remember seeing the first like promo image of 01's suit and thinking, wow, that's really tailored back next to Geo's stupid armors. I hate those armors. They're the worst. I despise them. I'm sorry. They're so obnoxious. I was all about armor ideas and they just turned out bad. So stripping it back to what was clearly supposed to be like a harken back to Showas, I thought was a super cool idea. And they eventually steer into that. I'm sure we'll get into like individual forms and things like that, but they eventually steer into that really hard. And I loved every aspect of that. And yeah, like same thing, like watching that first episode, I was like, okay, this is the energy we're going with. I'm here for it. Let's keep it rolling. And yeah, I agree. I think they kept that energy up the whole time. And it was a great way to say, hey, this is a new era. We're trying some new stuff, but at the same time, it's a lot of what you love about Kamen Rider. So,
for me, I'm the kind of guy who's like, I need to see a student in action before I cast final judgment.
Same.
I was optimistic. I was like, okay, you know what? I watched the show for a couple episodes. I'll probably end up getting bored with things happening. I ended up stopping. The last episode I recall watching before I just started binging it was episode 4, with the whole bus thing. We see Flying Falcon for the first time, but I like the suit at first. I thought it was very simplistic, and then the fact that as like when listen, Carl, I hope you know, since I've been watching the show, I've been on Monterey and Amazon trying to find cheap Blade Progress keys.
See, Sono knows what's up.
Yeah, well, where is it? I have this.
There you go. That's close enough. You'll just summon everyone. It's fine.
I'll just summon Kusaka and him and Guy can just have a pissing match.
Yeah, exactly. Perfect.
But no, getting back on topic real quick. I thought it was kind of cool. Not gonna lie. Reggie, you're up.
Yeah, the simplistic look of 01 when I first saw those promo images really like argued back to me like, okay, this is definitely a beginner, like a beginner of a new era. I mean, when you look at Ichigo and you look at Kuga, the very like simplistic look.
Yeah.
It's when we got to the press conferences and stuff like that, we got to see the other rider suits. So I was like, okay, this is gonna be interesting. We were limited when we had Geo only to like 2 riders up until Waz and Tsukiyomi got their powers. So like, we're seeing like 5 different riders at the start. Okay, this is kind of harkens back to, like say like Blade or Kabuto or like one of those earlier shows or Heisei era shows that had, multiple riders from the get-go. So I was like, yeah, I'm gonna enjoy this. And yeah, because of like the toy catalog pictures were what I saw mostly first, coming up, like Horobi. I swore I would get a Force Riser like from the start, and I ended up not getting one from the start. I ended up getting it way later down the line. Shout out to Shogun Uteki for selling me that. But yeah, like, I'm a sucker for purple, so like, okay, and he's very like nice. He's the only figure art I don't have yet. I'm still hunting one down. If anybody finds one for somewhat decent price, please let me know. But yeah, the suits, the look, the feel of it, the idea of, it's kind of like we have we have the human gear, the robots. Like, okay, so we're going to see interaction between human and human gear. There's like the real world like context of, like, oh, they're different from us, kind of thing. Like, okay, we're going to see that in here. But yeah, because of that, I really like the show. And then like, of course, we heard, the preview of the theme song and like, oh, this is so good. So I was just like, okay, yeah, I'm going to be in. And like, so almost every single week I would watch the episodes, kind of dead down in a certain arc that we'll talk about a little bit later. But like I kept on it, like even after the pandemic hit, and then like, we were like, they changed up some things in the episode. I was still for it. So I'm a little disappointed, of course, that we ended off episode like 45-ish, I think was the last episode.
But that was not to their fault, to be fair.
Yeah, that was
true. But I'm really glad that the movie kind of, the movie and the subsequent, V cinemas are kind of like continuing the story on, so we can at least see like what happens with the rest of these characters that we kind of just left off. And because it was one of those shows that ended off with a cliffhanger that led into the next movie, and the next movie kind of led into the V cinema, and then this V cinema led to the next one, and so I'm like, 01 is definitely in one of my top 5 of the Kamen Riders. So after watching it. And like it does have its flaws, of course, but I really enjoy the show.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing. Like I said, I stopped watching after episode 4 because for some reason 01 and Saber have the same problem of the early episodes being really boring, and then it just like starts picking up in like the mid 10s, early 20s. Here's my question: how did you guys feel about the theme song? Because for a while I was like, what, I'm just gonna skip all the theme songs like I do with Saber. And then I was like, I found myself unable to like stop skipping Realize, because that song, when you're driving and you have your windows open, the sunroof's open in your car, and you're just like, this song just pumps you up and makes you want to kick some ass.
So Gary, to answer your question, I'm gonna mute myself, and you guys are just gonna see how much I love that song.
Oh.
Yeah, no, I think that pretty much sums it up. I was into Realize kind of immediately. It felt a lot like kind of the phase 2 Heisei openings. It had kind of that energy that I had been missing for a while. So I was really I got really into Realize. I walk a lot. I live in a beach town, so I have kind of a playlist of all of the Heisei Rider songs. And when the full version for Realize dropped, and the first time that I hit the second half of the song and it goes back into the 010101, I'm like, oh no, this is it. This is it. You did it.
This is the one. Yeah, I completely agree. I think that was one of the things that hooked me right out the gate. Like, if you can, there's some series have that soft opening, but like right out the gate, when you show me that there's like robot apocalypse in your opening, I'm all for it. So that's pretty cool. Like, I'm down for, what was that Will Smith movie?
Wild Wild West?
iRobot. Yeah,
Gemini Man?
Not Wild Wild West. Get out of here with that movie. iRobot, yeah, with like the tech apocalypse kind of thing, and you had all the human gears like as they're like fighting them in like the big. It was almost like the ending to Time Force. It was very like post-apocalyptic, world is ending kind of thing, and I was like, okay, I like dark. I'm here for it. I like being sad. Let's do this.
Yeah, fun fact. Fee brings up loves his stuff as Team Revolution and Abingdon Boys School, so I was super excited when it was announced.
Takanori Nishikawa, yeah.
Here's the thing that I didn't realize. Team Revolution is the group who sang the first Gundam Seed intro. And while I've heard not so nice things about Gundam Seed, the first intro to Seed is chef's kiss.
I mean, we can get into Seed if you want. I got lots of opinions on that one.
Okay, Gary, write that down for another episode when I'm not here. You guys can talk Gundam.
I've got guests for all my episodes lined up. I got like 10 people who want to join.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
There you go.
Including people you've never heard of, Reggie.
Oh, goodness.
That's impossible. But yeah, so let's get into, speaking of people we don't know, all right, and this is, in this instance, we know them. Let's talk about the characters. I mean, obviously this show has a wide array of different organizations within it. I mean, obviously it's supposed to be like the whole idea of it was like corporation type theme, and then like eventually evolved into corporation versus like cyber terrorist versus like a police force, versus like another corporation. But yeah, let's get started with, of course, our main character, Hiden Aruto, the young man who wanted to desperately be a comedian and somehow ended up as the president of a company. That kind of summarizes how I kind of feel like where I'm working right now, is I wanted to be an actor and I ended up becoming someone who works in IT. So let's talk about Hiden Aruto, our main character. So guys, obviously, he's our protagonist. He has his tragic backstory that sometimes writers end up having. Like, he had, his original father died, and then so his grandfather made like a replacement father, one of the best dads. We'll talk about him later on in when we talk about the other character section. And of course that Humagear father also tragically passed, but not before he hit, telling Aruto, like, follow your dream about making humans and Humagear smile. So Aruto went on becoming like, comedian, a very unsuccessful one. But then when, his grandfather passed away, that's when he inherited, the Hiden Corporation, the 01 driver. So in my mind, Aruto is an enjoyable character. Of course, his puns, get some getting used to. I know there's a lot of controversy, or a lot of, not controversy, but at least a lot of people have an opinion about him being too goofy. But I feel like it kind of works in this setting because, like, if you're working as, this company president, you need to be able to relax, have some fun in your life. And, like, I think that's what Aruto is supposed to represent. Like, you can do your job, but you have to enjoy yourself when you can. And also, the fact that he is the one that has like the heart-to-heart kind of relationship with Humagear. Like, they're not just machines. They're not just our tools. They're, they're friends. They're our family. They're a part of our lives that we can't do without, kind of deal. I mean, when you saw him, interacting with that first like security Humagear, Mamoru, like he treated him like a person, not like, hey, you're just my machine that's just supposed to watch everything, kind of thing. So.
I'll start things off. I'm going to be dead honest with you guys. when I first started watching 01, I was not the biggest fan of Aruto. He's kind of in the same line as like those hyperactive Red Sentai Senshi, like Takaharu from Ninja or Kenta from Mega Ranger. I know he's not very hyper, but Kenta rubbed me the wrong way, and I haven't really watched a whole lot of Mega Ranger, but like when it came to like Takaharu, I'm like, I hate him. I hate him so much. But the more and more that I watch 01, I'm like, I have a newfound respect for Aruto because he's seen a lot of stuff. He's been through so much trauma in his life. And fun fact, when I watched the episode where with the human gear named Bingo, I kept waiting for a dog to appear. But anyway, we'll get to that later. But honestly, I gained a lot of respect for Aruto. Because it's like, Reggie, we're talking full spoilers here, right?
I was going to ask that actually. How hard are we going on spoilers?
We can go spoilers here. I mean,
okay.
Quick promo. Tokusatsu will end up having 01 streaming eventually, and they also have real physical media. So if you guys haven't watched 01 yet, be sure to check that out when it does come out. I know I'm going to be buying myself a set of DVDs and Blu-rays. So. But yeah, we can go full spoilers here.
All right, cool. So when Izu died,
I didn't know you were going to go that far.
Hard right off the cliff. I love it.
go big or go home, man.
Right?
Anyway.
Just spoilers and right off the cliff.
So when Izu died, and you just see that look of utter hopelessness and despair in Aruto's eyes. And then he just becomes 02. I am like, he changed. He's no longer the hyperactive idiot asshole. Oh, sorry, Ricky. When I'm supposed to swear here.
Yeah, you're good. Asshole is fine.
I'm not going any further than that. But when he saw Izu die in front of him, and he just being filled with all that anger, I'm like, wow, he's having like a intense trauma, and I thought it was, really beautiful. Just like Aruto, it was like a jokester, and now he's uber serious. He's on the same level as Takumi from Fives being serious, or what's his face, Shotaro from Double.
Yeah, I mean, Shotaro is also very goofy, but
yeah.
I mean, it really rounded him out. Like it, you know what I mean? Like Peacemaker says he's a huge dork, and they love dorks for writers. So yeah, he's a huge dork. But I think it also just made him extremely human when he suffered. Literally, a character we've seen them in basically every shot in the show for 45 episodes together. He loses, and then he essentially becomes the bad guy for like 5 episodes. So yeah, it's a very real and visceral reaction, and I thought they handled it extremely well. Yeah. And I think the kind of pace that they had to take towards the end of it was very advantageous to that whole storyline, that like mini arc, if you want to call it arc. That little arc in the story itself overall, because you have that huge like fall from grace kind of thing where he has to like literally claw his way back up into all his friends who he's built relationships over the show, eventually try to pull him out and help him pull him out. And, we get the end with realizing Hopper and that whole shtick that comes with that.
Yeah.
So I thought it was an extremely well done kind of rounding out, like I said, of the character to make them just feel really human.
Yeah, see, I was always really on board with Aruto. I don't generally mind a goofy writer, but a thing that stuck out about Aruto to me from the beginning is even in that very first shot we see of him when he is rushing to the amusement park on his bike, he's late for work. You see him rushing past both people and Yumagear that work in the park. He is immediately referring to Yumagear by name. He greets them the same way he is greeting any human in the park. And that stuck out to me really, really quickly. And then, his interactions with Mamoru, his interactions with Izu, he's, from the beginning, Aruto, who is kind of the avatar of the story, kind of answers this question, because it's anything with androids like this is always the question, can the robot be a person? Where 01, it felt like from the off, Aruto was answering that with, yes, the robots are people. That's not a question. And the question of the show is, how can we relate to them as people? How can we relate to someone different from us? And seeing Aruto trying to kind of reach out to both humans and Yumagir as if they were the same, and just acknowledge from the start that Yumagir are people, made him really, really endearing to me. And then as the show continues on and things get harder for him, and he's still trying to be this very carefree, happy person in spite of all of this adversity, just kind of made him my favorite version of the dorky writer protagonist.
Yeah.
Also, just one thing I want to say, since we're going full-blown spoilers, I will say this. I did not expect Aruto to be the final villain of the show.
Well,
I didn't until a point. As we got closer, I started seeing that being a possibility. But I'm not sure how much of it they had to change because of the hiatus. I know that Izu's death was a hiatus change.
Interesting. I didn't know that.
Same. I don't know that either.
Yeah, that's awesome. I guess it clearly was very advantageous to the story, because I think it would have been very different if it was just kind of like a kind of simple, like a regular Kamen Rider.
Versus Hirobi was planned from the beginning.
Yeah.
Like, that final conflict was planned from the beginning, and they lost so many episodes at the end that they're like, how can we set this up quickly? And that's it was just Izu. Izu is the answer.
She's the key.
I remember. Oh no, go ahead, Reggie. Sorry, I have something I want to say.
No, I mean, like the when we're talking about Aruto being affected by Izu's death, that's a real, like, he's grieving, but he doesn't know how to properly express that. Like, because he's him as the jokester, like he usually just default to joking around, but then because of how much of a journey he's had with Izu, he's like, if he were to do that, he'd expect her to respond back with her usual spiel, but she's not there, so he that was a good point for when we get to that character, like the corruptor, in a way. Like, it was kind of real, like he was deceived, he was grieving, and him becoming Arc 1, that really was unexpected, especially because like a lot of the times I know that we go by those magazine pictures, and we see 02 fighting Arc 1, and like, okay, so it is going to be Hirobi then, and then the whole plot twist of like, it's not Hirobi. And so, and then like his struggle, and the fight with Hirobi at the very end, like you were mentioning earlier about, he's trying to relate to them, and like, rather than just like beat Hirobi up, he was like trying to also teach Hirobi, like, I know your pain, like you don't know what your pain is, but I know what it is. Like, I've experienced it. And like, I'm here to, like, I'm not just here to, fight you. I'm here to talk it out, try to show you that, like, even though I'm human, you're a human gear. We experience the same experiences. We know the same pain. We don't have to go on alone, not knowing like, or how to deal with it. We can deal with it together.
Yeah.
Good deal. So yeah, Gary, what were you going to say?
I was going to say, I remember reading somewhere that originally the plan was for them to end the show at episode 41.
That's short.
Because they already started filming Saber.
Interesting.
I mean, here's the thing, though. If they had done that, then technically it would be the second shortest amount of time of the final form, unless you're one of those people who counts Metal Cluster as 01's true final form, and you count 02 as a completely separate writer, because the latest debut for a writer form was Kuga with Kuga Ultimate in the final episode. I said final form again.
Yeah. I mean, if you want to get technical, I would say Realizing Hopper is his final form, but that's splitting hairs.
Yeah.
No, to get back to what Reggie was saying, I think it was also something to note that, when he finally fought Hirobi, he wasn't at that place either. Like, he needed some of that help from like Fua, and even Maki like intervened on that fight. It's actually one of my favorite sequences in the entire show, when Fua and Aruto are fighting at the very end, and Fua is literally just trying to stop Aruto from going to Hirobi. It's such a visually representative that was a weird way to say that, but visual representation of the point in their relationship where, Fua literally can't stop him. He's just not strong enough. Like, he doesn't have his chip anymore. We can get into the chip when we talk about Fua, but he doesn't have his chip anymore. He's using this kind of like Frankenstein rider form, but he's literally just trying to stop Aruto, who just keeps walking forward. And at that point, I think Aruto had kind of flipped a little bit because he's not using Arc 1. He's just using 02. But it was just, for me, that was always a fantastic symbolism. That's the word I was looking for. Symbolism in their relationship.
Symbolism.
There we go. It's been a day. I need coffee.
It's all good. One other thing I wanted to bring up about Aruto was, I just love how it took him 45 episodes to achieve happiness. Because some of the time, you get writers who are like happy early on, and then they change, and then he gets really happy at the end. And at the end of the day, that's all I want from my main writer protagonist: them to be happy.
Yeah,
that's also a great segue because I want to talk about Fua.
But actually, we have to talk about the other character within the Hidden Corporation, our good friend, the Himagir Izu.
Girl.
Of course, best girl, so sweet. And I love the fact that Izu kind of represented like for Aruto, she was learning. She was like, because the Himagir, they're mass produced in a way, but Izu was a specialty secretary kind of Himagir created for Aruto. But rather than just being like the yes man, she eventually evolved. Kind of like she reached the singularity. She was able to think for herself and like make her own choices. Yeah. And the fact that she went for that confrontation with Hirobi to talk with him, like she did want the conflict to end, but unfortunately we did lose the original copy of Izu, and then Aruto recreated her at the end of the series. And then if I recall correctly, this is probably a movie spoiler, like somehow that consciousness from the previous Izu melded with the replacement Izu, and now she basically has the memories from back then. Is that correct?
Yeah, because she was always tied to Satellite Zaya, whatever you want to call it, whichever sub you were watching. She was tied to Zaya. Yeah, so and then the new one popped up there for a minute, and they were like, "Let's mold minds," and that's when she remembered.
And then she got to become
02.
Writer 02.
Peacemaker, real quick, I just want to jump in. Peacemaker says that 39 was the last episode they had written pre-emergency, and then COVID had them lose 4 episodes and only 6 episodes to wrap up the series. So
okay.
Thanks, Peacemaker.
I love Izu. I really love the growth arc that Izu takes over the course of the show, and how she kind of slowly learns how to feel things through Aruto teaching other people to feel things. I think she just had this really beautiful arc. And I was really worried as we saw her going to confront Hirobi. Because I'm like, are they gonna just fridge Izu? And they didn't. I'm sure there are people that took it that way, but I don't feel that Izu doing that was narratively something. I mean, of course, it hurt Aruto. It was going to hurt Aruto no matter what, but it wasn't like it happened off screen. It wasn't like Hirobi targeted Izu to get at Aruto. Izu made this decision to go talk to Hirobi, hoping that she could get through to him and prevent the conflict from escalating. Everything that Izu did at that point in the series was her own decision, and she was acting on her own agency. And I think that was a really important way to have that written. And a thing that I really loved, I haven't actually watched the movies yet, but having Izu come back at the end of the series, so many Yumagir got restored from data backups in Zaya. And the way that I took kind of new Izu, because I know a lot of people who were bothered by it, with like replacement Izu is kind of how some people saw it. And I was just like, no, she's being restored from a backup, but the backup is Aruto's heart. She is being restored from these. She is getting her memories back through being with Aruto. And I thought that was a really beautiful way to do that for Izu becoming her own person.
Absolutely. Izu for me, admittedly I didn't think as much of her until pretty much the Hirobi stuff happened towards the end. It was just kind of like, to me, she was always like the cute side character sort of thing. And then it was more so she impacted me when it impacted Aruto sort of thing. And then in the movie, I think she really does, when you do get a chance to watch it, Sono, it is a fantastic little arc that she has in there too that kind of puts a nice cherry on just everything. Yeah. So it is very cool. And she becomes a Kamen Rider, so that's pretty neat too.
I haven't seen the movies yet.
They're very good. I actually just watched them this morning because I thought we were going to talk about them. I was like, oh god, I'm very unprepared. I'm very unprofessional. So
I probably should have.
Oh please! I haven't watched the Build movies yet. Those have been out for a couple of years.
Those are good. I honestly, the only pre-Decade Heisei Rider I've seen movies for is Deno, and I think I'm missing like half of the post-Decade Heisei movies. I'm very bad about keeping up with movies.
All right, you just need to watch the Tysons. You're fine. That's all you need to watch.
So we've talked about, of course, the main characters from the Hiden Corporation. Well, of course, like we have the vice president. I don't even remember his name, to be honest. But
the vice president, him and his like Balkan Skull stooge buddy,
his yes man.
I don't know. Shust is the only important person over there.
Shust is the only competent person over there. But let's move on to the next organization. Gary was trying to talk about him. The best boy to a lot of people, Fua, Isamu Fua, aka Kamen Rider Vulcan. So everybody knows him, the meme of him, just trying to force these things open. And you would think that after the first time he wouldn't have to do that.
You'd think.
But I'm guessing that you kept fixing the lock every time.
Probably. It's
like, where do they draw the line between like cost of equipment and just giving this dude authorization at this point?
No, because see, like he's watched you transform too, and he should know. All he has to do is put it into the shot riser first, but he has to do it every time.
Thing. He doesn't have time for that.
I mean, not to get too far into Yua because we're talking about food, but I think part of it is she just kept trying to keep him from doing it because, she had a lot of information that he didn't have, and she's like, I really don't want to. This guy's already had kind of a messed up life because she doesn't know the truth of it at that point. She's like, I don't want this guy to do something reckless and get himself killed on my watch.
Yeah.
But we'll talk about Yua. We're talking about Fua right now, who I also love.
Mr. Punch a Bullet whenever I transform.
Yeah, it's the coolest part.
I think everybody can agree that like his debut Henshin was probably one of the best ones in the series.
I will say this much: I like Fua as a character. I think his best suit is
If you say Punch Kong, I'm signing off.
Listen. Whenever I see Punch Kong, I think of the old school GoBots Optimus Primal from the early 2000s.
That's fair. Yeah, I get that. But yeah, no.
But what I was going to say is, he also reminds me of the old Optimus Primal toy from Beast Wars. But that's the point. I like the fact that he started off like not trusting human gears, and then over time, he's like, yeah, human gears aren't that bad. And then he sticks up for the lawyer. And I'm like, where did this come from? Yeah. I'm used to Fua just being like, yeah, no, you know what? Go screw yourself. You're a human gear. I don't trust you. You caused my unhappiness my whole life. And to address my own comment, Rampage Gatling is the best suit of his. Also,
I think
I'm a sucker for gun changers, hence why I own the 20th anniversary DN driver. Now available on Total Collectibles.
I think it goes back to his change to back what Sono was saying earlier about like Aruto's influence on people. Like like the more he interacted with Aruto, the more he realized that he realized that human gear aren't just like machines, like they're not mindless in a way, like they, especially those that in the later part of the series actually developed that singularity, and they were able to actually think and act on their own rather than what their programming was. So with Fua, like we were talking about earlier, he was just originally the gung-ho, like I hate you kind of thing, or kind of person. Eventually became someone who was understanding, and I feel like a lot of that really also helps when we talk to about Mitsubo Jinrai, about the character that he's most connected to.
Yeah.
About like that's where that really helped his understanding.
I'm gonna say a lot of words about them.
Yeah. But okay, wait, real quick. Peacemaker says, "I love how there is a meaning to all of Tenshin punches. His actor talked about it on his YouTube. It's a good visual illustration of his arc." Okay.
Also, Tom Constantine.
Check that out.
Also, Tom Constantine is somebody else we need to get for this show. He says, all from Tom Constantine's producer roundtable Twitter thread. Recommend giving it a read or something goes into 01 production. Peacemaker, can you link that in the chat, please? Or send it to the Bugz2Men page on Twitter, and we'll look at it later and provide it in the show notes.
Yeah, because I definitely want to read about that.
Yeah. Fuwa's, well, of course, we were talking about Fuwa's past, and then of course we learned the truth.
Yeah, I feel like we're glancing over the fact that it was all a complete lie.
Yeah,
completely forged.
I actually kind of love. I actually really love that. I was really worried about Fua at the start of the show. I draw a lot of comparisons between 01 and X-Aid. They have the same lead writer. I feel like X-Aid is in a way proto 01. And I did not like Kamen Rider Brave. He spends his entire into the post-show movies learning the same lesson 4 times and never quite gets anywhere with it. And I was very, very scared that Fua was going to be the same guy until the second we see him laughing at Aruto's jokes. I'm like, you've already humanized him. You've already given him a route to make an emotional connection to someone.
Yeah.
And I love the way that played out. And as much as I feel like he grew from knowing Aruto, I feel like he also really grew a lot from knowing Izu. And the show didn't really do a lot with the dynamic between Fua and Izu, but Izu was this constant presence reminding him that not all Yumagear are like Yumagear in his head. And, he's got this trauma, and he reacts very realistically to that trauma, where, he wants to avoid this thing, he wants to prevent it happening again. But through being around Izu, and then every subsequent Yumagear that Aruto is showing is a person, he's like, okay, maybe Yumagear are like people, where some of them are good and some of them are bad, and I need to think about this more than not at all. And then, of course, the second half of the show happens, and he gets kind of a more direct connection to a Yumagear, and believe me, again, I have so many words, but I really think that was a really good and interesting way to handle his storyline. And then, of course, the one thing I love about the fact that his whole Yumagear trauma was a lie is before he knows that, he's already changed his mind on Yumagear. He doesn't change his mind because that trauma was fake. It only reinforces his decision that he has been lied to about Yumagear, and they are as good as he thinks they can be.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm extremely biased because Rampage is one of my favorite forms ever. Like, that's a top 5 form for me. Period. Because anytime you're going to clothesline someone in a Kamen Rider costume, I am 1,000% for that. So, yeah, you can just clothesline anyone, and I'll be like, all right, let's. You're my new favorite rider. Let's do this. So, yeah, Rampage Gatling's amazing. So, the second that premiered, I was like, yep, nope, that's my dude. All right, we're good. I mean, punching bullets and Punch Kong is so dumb. I hate that thing so much. It does have a cool moment in the movie, though. I'll give it that. It has a cool moment in the movie. But, like, he literally tries to punch.
It just makes me think of Gamel.
Yeah.
It makes me think of Gamel, and anything that makes me think of Gamel makes me happy.
It's bad. It's just awkward. I think it's really because he has two hands. That's what it is. He's got the big dumb fists and he's got his regular hands. Like one or the other. That's all you need.
Fair enough.
That's my rant on Punch Kong. We can move on.
I mean, I want to talk about Yua for a second. I have never seen a more useless tertiary writer.
Oh, that's
than
hard.
Yua.
Oh.
I'm gonna get hate for this. I'm sorry. Out of every writer in Zero One,
how many Zabis were there? Let's be fair.
I haven't seen Kamen, so I don't know.
4.
Continue.
I think that's right.
See, the only Zabi user I know is the one from Decade, but Yua contributed very little to the plot. She only got kind of cool when she became the Jackal Raider later on in the show.
But she
Also,
punched a guy.
Yeah. And she has the whole finisher thing pop up.
Yeah.
She does that.
Outside of her costume.
That moment was
beautiful.
incredible.
I shed a tear, honestly. I was like, ooh, this is beautiful.
I mean, yeah, but at the same time, I'm just sitting there like, when I'm trying to like poke her with a metaphorical stick. When are you going to be useful? Do something.
Oh, see. Okay. I love Yua. I latched onto Yua immediately. One, I like that Yua is. I'm going to get into her as a plot relevant character in a second, but just from the minute she's in the show, she felt like a Kamen Rider who is a woman instead of a lady rider, which is kind of a very. It sounds like splitting hairs, but I think it's kind of an important distinction. Her suit is just a normal rider suit. It's not a woman rider suit. And I love Nadeshiko. I love Kivala. I think they're great suits, but man, they're not designed the way a normal rider suit is.
You don't want to fight in heels? Come on now.
Look, I would love to fight in heels, but like,
do your ankles want to fight in heels? I should say.
No, they don't. And the fact that Yua is treated on the same level as Aruto and Fua. She fights on the same level as them. She is just fighting in a different style. Where, Fua's even though he is a gun rider, he's a very melee combat rider. She's a speed range type. Playing a little too much Final Fantasy 14. Thinking of things in DPS classes. Yeah, look, I'm not going to derail us with that. I have so many thoughts about Endwalker, but Yua always functioned for me as kind of this foil for this kind of narrative foil for Izu and Yumagear in general, because she was always. She starts out as Yumagear are tools. They are things to make humans' lives easier. That is their purpose, as opposed to all of like Aruto, as opposed to Fua, who's like, these things are just bad. We can't have them around. I need to get rid of them. And Aruto, who is like, these are people that we need to relate to. She was acting as kind of this third facet of how to view Yumagear. And that becomes more and more complex the more we learn about her and the way that she is being used in the same way she believes Yumagear should be used. And she functions as this, you can treat humans like that too, which honestly helps humanize the Yumagear even more. Mm-hmm. I feel like there is a very large section of the plot where she doesn't get to do anything, which I didn't enjoy watching, even as I do feel that it served a function to her narrative and builds up to that point where she is like, I am being used as a person, and now I'm being used as a tool, and now I'm being used to hurt people, and I want out. And then kind of reclaims herself as a person the way that all of the Yuma gear get to reclaim themselves as a person. And I thought that was a really great arc for her to have.
Yeah.
I mean, I could also be biased, but also I wanted to bring up something from the chat. Peacemaker says, I kind of wish she got a Rampage style upgrade since her and Fua had matching suits for a while. She's getting an upgrade in the V cinema, right?
Yeah, she's using the Serval Tiger Zetsumarai's key to transform.
Give her a million more upgrades. She deserves them.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I guess my whole bias just comes from the fact that I was expecting more out of her. I was expecting her to just, not be a completely subservient person to the next guy I want to talk about, which is Guy. Because I have a whole rant saved up for him.
Oh, we were going to save him.
I have a lot of things to say about Guy, and I
was going to save him for afterwards, right? But
her subservience to Guy did bother me a lot, even though I do think it served her larger narrative. I kind of wish she had gotten out of it sooner and been able to be kind of a fuller person and a fuller writer much sooner. I can agree with you there. I do wish that had happened quicker. Because, man, the Hiden versus Zaya arc, I wish they had known that they were going to lose 5 episodes to the hiatus, because I feel like they would have taken them out of that arc.
Oh, yeah.
Because that arc could have been cut in half, and it would have sped things up for her immensely. Yeah. I can agree with you there. I wish she had gotten to spend more time as a free person.
Yeah, I think it's kind of her issue. She just has, different pacing compared to everyone else, and, there's such big grandiose narratives compared to hers, where hers is a much more subtle, internal kind of change, as opposed to Fua, who's, going through literal robot racism. And then Haruto, who's just this big, goofy, bombastic dude. Hers is very much more like you were saying, it's the servitude and all that kind of stuff, and dealing with that, and her internally changing herself. And it's a slow burn kind of thing compared to everyone else. So I think that's kind of why it can come across as boring is an awful word to say it, but it seems like she's not doing a lot, but it's because a lot of her is cooking kind of thing.
I think a lot of it is she is not as genre savvy as the rest of the show. Everyone else seems to kind of realize that they're in this shonen action hero show, and she's acting more like this is kind of weird, but a real person. Where she's just trying to get through her day-to-day in this really awful job that she hates, that she can't lose, because she probably has a company apartment. All of her stuff is probably tied up completely. We don't know that. I'm making an assumption there. But I wish she had been able to break out of it sooner and have that big moment of, I don't have a dream, but I have principles, and then punch Guy in the face and reclaim herself. Because that moment is incredible. And, resonated a lot with me for a lot of reasons. But I do agree. I wish it had happened sooner.
Yeah. She was underutilized, essentially. Especially when it comes to, what Peacemaker is saying, that he hoped that she got an upgrade. Because honestly, she was the only writer with, Horby only had 2 suits really too, but she of the main trio, she only had Rushing Cheetah and Lightning Hornet. And even then,
she had gotten Jackal as an upgrade. That she had reclaimed Jackal as an upgrade.
Yeah.
That would have been cool. I mean, especially because if you look at the design books, you can see that Valkyrie's face, or her helmet's face, is actually behind the Jackal portion. So they totally could have done that. They could have just taken off the Jackal portion, kept the ears or something, and then had that as a new.
Could have easily been an assault Jackal kind of thing.
Assault Jackal.
Yeah.
Yeah, she was this really hyper competent character as well in the beginning, and then just having her turn into Guy's yes man essentially was no. I really wanted, like you guys said, I really wish that she could have broken out of that a lot earlier. And the workplace arc just kept delaying it even further.
Yeah.
Can I just say also, I didn't watch any of the clip shows. The only one I watched was 35.5 because that introduced Azu. I didn't miss anything particularly.
The other two are
right?
complete. Yeah. The other two are completely unimportant, and the Fua one is actually really weird because it's all them dubbing over the footage that they had to kind of like make a new storyline, and they take that moment where Naki is first breaking out of Fua during the model arc, and having him be like, I don't have a job anymore. What do I do with my life now? And I'm like, this is really tonally dissonant to this actual moment. You guys maybe should have picked some different footage.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. I'm just double checking because I binge watched. I binge watched like this entire show in like 3 weeks.
Yeah, the 35.5 is the only one you need to watch, and even then, you don't really need to. But that's a good one. So no, the other two are completely unimportant.
I kind of figured because Reggie and I were messaging each other like, yeah, just like 35.5 has Azu's debut. I'm like, okay, and then Azu just disappears for like 80% of the show. I mean, other than the
that was
episode.
a little weird.
Yeah. Well, since we're talking a lot about that character, let's move on to what originally the purpose of this episode was to be about. Metsubo Jinrai, and we're gonna start off with that guy is never trust a big button and smile, but that guy is poison. Horobi.
Okay, I want to
the leader of MetsuboJinrai.net, or at least the de facto leader of MetsuboJinrai.net.
I want to give a special shout out to my dear friend at Kivala, aka Joseph Fuzzy, aka Mandy, because she is the world's biggest Horobi fan. It's so the amount of stuff that she has for Horobi makes me very jealous because I like Horobi as well. It's his hair and his swagger and his sword.
Sono has a little fleshy.
I love him. He is one. I like scorpions a lot. I don't know if that's a thing that y'all who kind of are aware of me have picked up on over the years. I like scorpions a lot. So when they're like, "Oh, dude is purple and a scorpion," I'm like, "Okay, you've sold me. You've sold me on this guy."
I didn't care about his character.
you saw, but then his character is great. He has this kind of amazing arc where he's like, I have Yua over there too, where I just
Yua.
But he's got this thing where he's trying to be a father, but he doesn't really know what that means. And early on, I'm like, does he just think of parent and child in like computer terms where the parent can kind of do what it wants and the child is moved with it? Like, and I'm like, is that how he's thinking about it? And he kind of develops this kind of love for his son over the course of the show that I thought was really interesting. But all through it, he wants to have these emotions about his son and develop this programming that he's meant to have. But he keeps getting distracted by these lies that are being screamed in his ear by this angry satellite at the bottom of a lake. And the way that all culminates, because again, coming back to that moment where he shoots Izu, he very clearly doesn't want to. He wants to stop. He wants everything to be the way that he wants it to be. But that can't, the way that this is warped in his head, that can't involve humans. All he wants is for Yumagear to be treated like people, and he doesn't realize that the heroes are trying to do the same thing. And I think that story, and especially since, this is just rumors that I've heard, I don't know anything for certain, but I was told that Aruto and Horobi end conflict was the plan from the start. They kind of worked backward from there. And I feel like that makes so much sense with the way his character is gone, because, he has that moment where Aruto, he's like, I've found a dream, and he kind of like reaches his singularity, and Aruto's like, cool, we're going to be friends then, we're going to work together. He's like, no, my dream is to eradicate humanity. And I'm like, oh no, honey, that's not your dream. You're still confused.
Oh, honey.
Sweetie, no. And then just, that last conversation he has with Jin, where, they are physically separated by the set. and he wants to go to his son, but he can't, and he has to take responsibility for getting his son killed. He's angry at Aruto for doing it, but he's got to know that he's the one that facilitated that happening. If he had stepped down, if he had stepped back, it wouldn't have happened. And I think the way that plays out over the course of the show was just done so well.
Yeah. I mean, I also just want to say he has a nice katana.
He does.
He does.
He really does.
I also just want to say I really, really wish that Arc Scorpion got more than one episode, because that suit is glorious.
That suit does rule. It owns.
And I already know whenever that figure gets announced, it's going to be Premium Bandai, and I'm going to hate myself, and I need that.
Yep.
Unless they do a reissue of the original Scorpion suit, that's probably going to be my Hirobi representation. But
one thing I want to say about Hirobi, I like the fact that he didn't reform at the end. He was still very much against humanity. Because most of the time in Rider, it's like, oh, you have a villain Rider like guy, and he's just like, yeah, we're best friends now. Hirobi like, no, screw you. I still hate humanity. You're all gonna die. And I'm like, that's very interesting. Because I wasn't expecting that, honestly.
I don't know if necessarily he wants to kill them. I think it's more if he's protecting, like, he's steering real hard into that dad thing where he's like, I'm going to protect me and mine. And whoever gets in that way, no bueno.
Yeah,
but
I think, at least, again, I haven't seen the movies, so I don't know how he acts within that. But at least what I got from the epilogue of the show is I can't trust either humans or Yumagir to not fall into this malice.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to take this on a case-by-case basis.
Yeah, like, I am going to just make sure that this doesn't happen again but,
yeah,
I'm not going to go out of my way to, eradicate humanity anymore. I'm just like, if I see this malice manifesting, that's where I'm going to step in, kind of deal.
Yeah.
Though I do love when Jin, starts kind of jumping on him and being like, yeah, dad, and you see him do the little smile, and I'm like, okay,
yeah,
he's gonna be okay.
And then they just become Batman and Robin. It's fine.
Essentially, yeah.
Speaking of Jin, that's actually a great segue unless anyone has anything to say about our Lord and Savior Hirobi-sama, Sima-sama.
I mean, my favorite thing, I'll just mention this real quick. When Hirobi shows up, in Scorpion for the first time and he first henshins.
Oh, yeah.
Straight up murders Fua. So I genuinely thought Fua was dead. I was like, you was the new secondary. Fua's dead. How do you survive that? He sting dystopia'd him right in the throat. Like, nope, game over. Okay. And then, of course, he survived because it's Kamen Rider. But yeah, that was such an entrance. That was some big dick energy.
I mean, because aside from Arc Scorpion, that was Sting Scorpion was Hirobi's only form, and he was still fighting on par with all of these other Kamen Riders.
Yeah,
too.
And he does it throughout the entire series too. Even into the movies, he's on par with everyone. Whereas they're all using their Rampage and 0-2 and all this, and he's just rocking Scorpion.
Yeah, with just only the attached bow, he doesn't get any additional weapons or anything like that. That's just pure skill. That's
just that. That thing he stole. That's all.
But yeah, now let's talk about the second member that we're at least introduced to, the Best Bleak. Yes.
Okay. I will say this. Jin started off very mature, and then once he dies the first time, he comes back in his suit. I'm like, is that flipped from Double? With the hair, he looks like Masaki Suda.
He does a bit.
Yeah.
Also, he looks like Ryotaro, possessed by Urataras from Tenno, minus the blue hair.
Well, that's just because he's clean, man. He's just in that clean suit. But yeah, with Jin, the whole idea of him starting off as kind of this immature, almost like a Par 2.0 for X8 is what I saw a lot of people comparing him to.
Yeah.
At the beginning, the childish kind of character who he doesn't see the consequences of his actions, but then when he when he did that corruption for the frog Magia, and then he's like, oh, that's not how a parent's supposed to treat a child. He kind of had that mini revelation, and then Horobi just had to put the Force Riser on him and corrupt his mind again. But yeah, Jin, his resurrection was definitely an interesting plot point that they did for him because, well, yeah, especially who was the one that resurrected him was also the surprising thing, because you would think that because he's a servant of the Ark, Ark would probably bring him back, but even Horobi was surprised by him coming back, and him going from flying Falcon, one of the first ever, well, not first ever, but one of those other pink suits, it was one of those suits that you got used to, and then becoming Burning Falcon, this very nice cherry red with the slash riser, one of the best hinging devices that I still don't have yet.
Slash riser.
Yeah, him becoming and then kind of dropping the immaturity and becoming this more mature, serious force. That was a good. I think that was a nice evolution for him. Yeah. But him still maintaining that desire to want Horobi to see him as a son rather than a tool kind of deal, especially with his sacrifice, him jumping and taking the bullet for Horobi. That was
yeah, he loved his father as much as his father loved his son.
Yeah.
Jin, I didn't like Jin at first because of the gun. I didn't. Yeah, no, that him headshotting the Yumagear in the first or second episode. I'm like, I can't deal with that. And then I think during the voice actors arc, he when he's firing in the amphitheater, I'm like, I can't. You need to stop with that. I know that it's very different in Japan. I just really can't deal with the gun. But as he was kind of evolving as a character and kind of being... Because with Pallet, he was very childlike, but Jin always felt like he was a child. And seeing him kind of grow and start to realize this situation isn't quite what I think it is, and then having, more of the arc's essential propaganda shoved into his brain, and having to learn and relearn and keep struggling with that until he was destroyed and came back, was really interesting. I had thought for a long time it was Yua that rebuilt him, because she had rebuilt Horobi at one point. And then him being rebuilt by this foreign Zaya president never quite made a lot of sense to me. I feel like it was something that was maybe intended to be a bigger plot point that got kind of shelved due to hiatus and all of that, and didn't really get to work out the way they wanted, which is a shame because I think it's interesting.
It's literally the point of the V cinema, so they do go into that more.
Yeah.
Okay, good. I'm glad they do go back and cover that. Because that always felt very weird and bringing that guy in at the end felt kind of tacked on. Yeah. Especially when I thought he was going to be the movie villain, and then they're like, nope, this is entirely different, unrelated movie villain. And I'm like, oh, okay, sure. So I'm glad they do touch on that in the movie. But I do really like Jin as he matured, and after his resurrection, because it felt very much like I am this child who has escaped this very weird, confusing childhood, but I know my father is a good person. He is just also being lied to the way I was, and I still love him and want to help him.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean... Something that I want to say also is when Jin gets possessed by the Ark, and he just point blank shoots Aruto, I'm like, are we about to have another ghost situation? Is he gonna need to find the 15 special progress keys to come back to life as an AI? Because originally, I thought that Aruto was a human gear who didn't have his memory, just like Mac from Operation Overdrive. Shout out to all the Power Ranger fans out there. That episode will be coming in July. Spoiler alert. But I'm just very surprised though that Jin didn't really know that he was really going to kill somebody, but he killed Aruto. And I just remember one other Aruto point I wanted to make earlier. The fact that in Metal Cluster Hopper, at least before he got the Progress Blade, he was fully aware of what the suit was doing, and he was powerless to stop it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was horrifying.
Which led credence to my theory that he got hacked, and he's actually a human here with no memory. Because when I first saw like there was a rampage, I was like, so this is like Build Hazard, and no, it wasn't like Build Hazard at all. It was just he's fully aware of what he's doing, and I'm like, that's awesome. That is awesome. Also, Peacemaker says, I wish more of his resurrection was shown in the proper, not in the Project Bowser stuff. Yeah.
I never watched the Project Bowser stuff, honestly.
I only watched the first one.
Yeah, I didn't care. To be bluntly honest.
It's not about Bowser, so
yeah,
that's the weird part about it.
Yeah.
Because I definitely didn't care until someone was like, no, you want to watch the first one. Trust me.
Cool.
And then I watched it, I'm like, oh, okay, yes.
This explains it.
I see. I see why you wanted me to watch this, yes.
I feel like they put any of that to bed early on because Art went to the hospital and got checked out and shown to be human. Yeah, that's also a thing. I forgot he was in the hospital.
Yeah. He definitely bleeds a few times too. Like,
I saw a lot of people theorizing that Aruto might be a Yumigear, and I think what put that to rest for me was when Jin and Hirobi like pulled the hood back and the headband down, and you saw the broken ports.
Yeah.
Because there early on there was a lot of questions like, are they human? Are they human or are they Yumigear? And I always felt that they were Yumigear, but I'm like, but how are they hiding that? But seeing the broken ports on them, I'm like, okay, I don't think they're doing this with Aruto too.
Yeah.
Moving on from there.
We're moving on to the third member, the Manchurian agent of the group, Raiden, aka Ikazuchi. The big bro character who unfortunately was the least developed of the group.
Unfortunately.
Like everybody, he was the writer that nobody really expected to. Like, all of a sudden we see this promo image and we're like, it's probably a Photoshop or something, right? Because like there's this guy with like several of the progress key holders with all the different progress keys in it, and he's wearing a force visor, but he's red. But I never seen him in the catalog before. And then we got introduced to him. I feel like he was rushed. Like the whole idea of a Manchurian agent situation, like a Humagear that doesn't know it's actually in support of the arc. I felt like they could have dragged that on for a bit if they wanted to. Like they could have had him be like a supporting character for Aruto, and then at the midway point reveal that like, oh yeah, I work for the arc, rather than episode, was it like 8 or not 8? Like it was like
it was a while.
Ikazuchi Raiden's first introduction?
Yeah.
Episode 13.
We got Assault Wolf around the teens.
Episode 13.
13, okay.
Yeah, it was a while. Given how big of a role Satellite Zaya played, and that he was basically doing all of the physical work on Zaya, I really do think they could have introduced him a lot sooner and had him at least communicating with Izu through Zaya.
Yeah. Like had the plot twist of him being the third member of Metsubo Jinrai, like later on, would have been, I think, nicer. Probably they could have done that, like if they wanted to, because when they killed off, they killed him off also fairly quickly.
Yeah, he's only there for 2 episodes,
and then they bring him back later on. So it's like, because we had the little assassin, character using the dodo key for like the longest time. Yeah.
I mean, this is probably going to be the one part of the show where I don't really talk a lot because I have nothing really to say about Naki or Raiden. But I do want to address the chat real quick. Peacemaker says I feel so bad for him and Naki because they both got so little at the end.
Here's not enough about Naki for all of us.
Yeah.
Here's the one thing that I will say about Naki. I like the twist that he was the one who was corrupting all the Zyspec users to become the Raiders. Because originally I thought that was Yua. Because she's so blindly loyal to Guy. And the hood made it seem like, yeah, it's Yua. Nope, it was Fua under the possession of Naki. So that was kind of interesting. Anyway, I'll be here, but I have nothing to say about that really at all. So enjoy.
But yeah,
okay, like I said, I'll talk enough about Naki for all of us.
Yeah,
go for it.
So last thoughts of Ikuzuchi real quick though. But yeah, great looking suit at least. But yeah, horribly underutilized. Because I mean, even then, Sono's obviously going to go into Naki. Naki got more storyline, and Naki was a chip for most of the show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
I mean,
like,
my thing with
I like. Oh no, go ahead.
Yeah. I'm sorry. I just want to touch on Ikuzuchi real quick before we get on to Naki. The problem is he was kind of like sidelined to a background character for most of it, and like that's just kind of how he exists now. And like, yeah, the suit's cool. Yeah, he had a cool little run where he like gets a bunch of upgrades and like starts firing missiles at people and all this cool stuff. But like, I don't know. He was literally a plot device to me to introduce the assault stuff, Shining Assault Wolf, all that kind of stuff. So.
No, that's kind of also where I am with Ikuzuchi. I like his story with Subaru. I like him in theory, but they just did absolutely nothing with him in practice. And I felt back, so I'm like, oh, he's a cool character with a lot of potential and a good suit and like a great costume design when he comes back. But they just don't do anything with him. He just exists.
Yeah.
It is I, Hirobi, me, Jin, Naki. I'm here too.
Hello.
Pretty much.
But yeah, so we'll transition into the fourth member of Metsubo Jinrai. They are honestly one of my favorite characters in the show as well. And Sono is going to be leading this conversation. We're going to be talking about Naki.
Yeah. Naki is the whole reason you contacted me originally.
Yeah.
Right.
Naki is so near and dear to my heart. I have most of the Naki merchandise. I'm so mad that they didn't go back and make plushes for Naki and Ikuzuchi. I'm bummed about that forever.
They had
that would have gotten me to go back and buy Jin too.
Yeah, they had the potential too because of the V Cinema stuff, but they didn't.
Yep, just didn't do it. Because they don't want my money, I guess. It was hard enough getting this.
Do you have the figure art pre-ordered though?
I do.
All right, same here.
And I have the Soto. I have the Soto, the figure art pre-ordered. I have this. I have a keychain. I have the Kamen Rider store big button set. They're all on my wall though, so I can't take them down. But Naki is so very, very near and dear to me. My biggest like memory with Naki is when they first were kind of separated from Fua, and I was thinking, oh cool, maybe they'll get to use Assault Wolf in a movie. That would be nice, because I expect nothing. I expect nothing from Toei at this point. They have shortchanged me so many times that I'm like, okay, well, Fua doesn't use Assault Wolf anymore now that he has Rampage Gatling. Maybe since Assault Wolf was meant originally for Naki anyway, maybe they'll get to use it in like a Vulcan movie. That would be cool. And then the show was apparently like, hold my beer, because the next week we get Kamen Rider Naki with their own key, their own belt, their own suit. I mean, not their own belt, it is a Force Riser, but it's not Fua's belt. And I'm like, oh no, you're just doing right by me all the way through this. Great. And I was a little confused at first because I knew some people who were theorizing that something was going on with Fua and with Metsubo Jinrai, partially because of Assault Wolf, because they said only Yuma gear can use Assault Wolf, and then he uses it anyway. And I'm just like, well, Fua just does what he wants.
Yeah.
But no, that actually was some pretty good foreshadowing.
Yeah.
And then kind of having him have had this Yuma gear in his brain, who is even more, who's the kind of the most detached. They don't have a dream. They don't really have a sense of being a person. And what they want is to learn how to have a dream. And that was kind of an interesting goal. One, I'm going to be completely upfront here. I love Naki being confirmed as agender and being played by this agender actor.
Yeah, that was cool.
I am non-binary myself. I have a very complicated relationship to my gender. And Naki made me feel very seen in a way that I had never been, especially within this franchise. Naki is far and away my favorite Kamen Rider character throughout all of it, and partially because of that. But seeing Naki trying to reach across all sides, the way that Aruto had been, especially once Izu had died and Aruto was kind of losing it, and when Fua confronts him, Naki is there and keeps trying to reach out to him like, you showed me what a dream is. You showed me how important that is. You need to come back from this. We're all here for you. We want to help you. And seeing them keep trying to reach out to Hirobi and trying really on both sides to end this conflict by telling them like, y'all, I've been in both places. It's fine. We can work this out. We all have the same dream. Please listen to me. And that was a really great storyline. And I love that Naki is this agender character who doesn't have to find themselves. They're not broken as far as their personality goes. They're just accepted as this and get to be this. And their whole arc is finding out how to exist in the world like this. They don't need to change. And that was really important to me.
Yeah,
that's fantastic.
Yeah,
it's amazing. And I think Naki literally serves a great purpose in that, just having representation. I really can't speak any more to Naki than that, honestly, because I don't want to shadow anything in that. So
that was beautiful.
Naki also being,
thank you.
And
just again, having Naki as this agender writer played by an agender actor in the same show where we get a third rider who is a woman and is not the lady rider and instead is a rider that is a woman. I'm like, okay, Toei, you've got no more excuses. You've used them all up in this one show. You've done it. You can keep doing it.
Facts.
I mean, back to Naki. Naki was of the four members of Netto Jinrai. I think that their prominence was also really great, especially with the whole journey of Fua's acceptance of human gear. That moment when they both beat up Guy as Rampage Vulcan, going
together,
we are not tools, we are not. That was just great. Naki, just is an amazing character, and honestly, I wish we could have seen more of Naki, because the representation is there, and I really love that when their actor actually confirmed that. I was just like, that's so awesome. And then I'm gonna be honest, I get a little bit pissed off when people referring to the character as a she. I mean, that's
that, yeah. It's specifically because Nakayama has expressed so much discomfort with being called she. That I'm just like, please don't. Please don't. But the fact that but the fact that Omori, who famously was like, no, Kyoryuger can't have a Yellow Ranger because 2 women fighting a dinosaur is unrealistic, coming out and backing that up and saying, yeah, Naki has no gender. I'm like, okay, cool. You've reevaluated some stuff and moved forward, and maybe I can trust you again.
That's all.
Something else I wanted to say, just about the series in general. Anybody besides me really, when they watched the show, did you guys think of the movie Terminator?
On and
Yes.
off.
Yeah, I think that any dystopian sci-fi robot movie you can pull from this series.
Yeah, because I was like with the whole red eye thing. Because one of my buddies, his only exposure to Tokusatsu is actually Jew Ranger.
Mhm.
I was like, 01's pretty much Terminator, dude. He's like, okay, well, I want to try it, so I might be seeing him in a little bit to go show him that. One thing that I wanted to say is, how did you guys feel about the Progress keys? Because I like the Progress keys quite a bit. I kind of want a few, and I blame Reggie and Carl.
They're fun little trinkets, man. Just be aware they don't have on-off switches, so you want to preserve the battery, keep the white tabs if you can. But
Yeah,
they're fun. Well,
and it just dawned on me we never talked about Guy. So the time is it Guy time?
The time.
yeah,
the time
we'll
has
talk
come.
about the other members of Metsubo Jinrai. Well, not Metsubo Jinrai, but the arc after Guy. So, but yeah, let's talk about the 1000% an asshole character, Gaiamatsu, aka Kamen Rider Bowser.
Okay, so the floor is
This-
mine.
This glorious golden, and I will curse for this because I feel like he deserves to be cursed at. Glorious golden bastard. So,
Do you classify Bastard as a curse?
yes,
A little bit.
and
It's on the lighter side.
Eh,
On the
come
lighter side of them.
come to where I live, Reggie, in New York, and you'll hear people call you other words. But that's the point. I hate Guy more than I hate Kusaka from Fives.
Yes. Yes.
I hate Guy more. I hate Guy more than I hate the final villain in Forge. That's the point. And I have one more comparison. I hate Guy more than I hate Gaja from Bokenger. He's the only villain I didn't really care for. Let me put you this way. I understand why everyone hates Kusaka. Don't get me wrong. What he did to Mari in the manga is just terrible. Also, Kusaka's smile is just disgusting. And it makes my eyes want to bleed. Tell me I'm wrong.
No, you're not.
It's creepy, but Reggie was doing it while you were talking and look away.
But anyway, so my disdain of Guy starts with the fact that he put profits over everybody else. He didn't care who died. He didn't care who went financially broke. He didn't care what happened to you as long as he makes money. Now, I will say this. To quote Lewis Black, money is the root of all evil. But the fact that Guy, when he first debuted as Bowser, he was the most overpowered mofo, and his sword could steal the power from the other Progress keys. I'm like, this suit is badass. However, when it came to trusting Yua and Zaya, he was like, yeah, I don't need you. Go away. He was so quick to denounce every form of human gear. He manipulated everybody just to make Zaya more money and to help them win the tournament arc, which I agree with you, Sono, should have been like 2 or 3 episodes at most, not like 5 or 6.
No, every episode in that arc did not need to be 2 episodes. They could have done all of them in one. It could have been a 5-episode arc. It would have been exactly the same.
Yeah.
It did not need to be 10 episodes.
Yeah.
And then we get Guy's tragic backstory. So you're telling me
he's a well done son guy.
So you're telling me his father was a tryhard who pretty much disowned him because he got a 99 on a test. So he had to throw away the only friend he had because for some strange reason he was unable to make friends in his school.
It was likely one of those situations where the parent was like a helicopter parent who just, you're only supposed to study. You're only supposed to go to school to study. You're not supposed to enjoy it, kind of deal. Because I mean, his dad was kind of the perfectionist. That's where the whole 1000% thing comes from. And yeah, that's the unfortunate thing is that like also Guy was incredibly petty. Because I believe that his history with the Hedon Corporation is that like he wanted to do these things, and like Soryo said no, and of course that led to the arc, and yeah, so the whole like here's his redeeming story or his backstory. Now you know why he's like this was
weak.
Weak.
Yeah,
it's like he still kind of caused a good chunk of a genocide.
He caused the whole plot. He caused the whole conflict.
This is
cool motive, still murder.
Kuroto 2.0 situation.
I compare him a lot to Kuroto. I make a lot of comparisons between X8 and 01.
I think that's why I enjoy
because
the show so much.
They're the same main writer, and I know that in X8, Takahashi Yuya had different plans for Dan Kuroto, and then Iwanaga started acting, and they're like, nope, we have to do this different. We have to make use of that guy. So I feel like a lot of his plans for Dan Kuroto ended up getting reused in Amatsu Guy, because they have kind of that same starting point where they're in charge of this big corporation, but they've got stuff going on behind the scenes. Everyone thinks they're an okay guy at first. Kuroto did a lot more direct double crossing, but I feel like a lot of the plans for Dan Kuroto got recycled into Guy, so I draw a lot of comparisons between them. And Guy is he's infuriating kind of on the same level that Abare Killer is infuriating for me, in that by the time we are supposed to like him and they give him like the redemption, the damage is already done. He has caused so many problems that could have been solved if he had not done anything, that the entire show is basically his fault. And I'm just like, I don't care. You can't come back from this. You have hurt everyone. And again, it bothered me so much that the competition arc was Guy making up all of the rules and deciding all of the competitions and deciding this is what the competition is going to be. This is where we're going to do it. I am making the rules as to the win conditions. I'm like, doesn't Aruto get to decide this? Like, this is a competition. Y'all should have a mediator. Someone else should be deciding these things, especially once Guy has been proven to cheat. Guy cheated like 3 times in the beginning of the competition and then assaults Aruto out of suit. This isn't even a rider fight. He physically punches Aruto in front of his own lawyer, who didn't want to cheat. Like, his lawyer was actually on the up and up and thought that the case was legitimate. Why didn't that guy go to the police? Why has no one called the cops on this guy? Fua, you are the cops. Fua, you're the cops. Deal with this.
No, it's Harlem too, ladies. But also, I have 2 things. One, I wanted to address the chat real quick. Peacemaker says, so the big movie one that they want is 1990 Solve Human Gear crime movie. As long as there's a buddy cop, I'll accept it. Best Thouser is Dog Thouser. Streamline the arc, make it about the vote at the end rather than a best of 5. Because all the plots go to jail, and then they put Dan and Guy in the same room for a special.
Yeah,
I want to watch that.
Kamen Rider Gems, the president.
Not good.
It's not?
Well,
it's not good.
Well, no. I didn't assume it would be. It has Guy in it.
Yeah, no, I mean, do you want me to tell you about it?
Go
ahead and spoil for this.
Sure, yeah. It's literally, it turns into Dan and his father fighting, and Guy has nothing to do with any of it. So,
really?
Yeah, he gets the Bugster
I'd rather watch that.
Yeah, like Dan comes out of Guy because he gets the Bugster virus for whatever reason, because Arc. And then his father also climbs out of Guy, and then Guy's just like, I feel sick. And he just watches his Dan and his dad fight. That's the show.
Something else that I wanted to bring up was, why did they just do the whole 5-episode like battle arc, like for control of Hiden, when 2 seasons earlier, when there was a conflict between the 3 different sectors of Japan, they fought it out. You have Kamen Riders, you have Bowser, and you have 01.
Yeah.
Fight!
Think about it though, Gary.
Well,
the difference is there is that build it's 3 separate territory dystopia type situation versus this is modern Japan. This is 2 corporations going at each other rather than
I don't think Guy was publicly Thouser, and I don't think Aruto. Well, no, Aruto was publicly 01. He kind of Iron Man. He kind of Iron Manned that. But I think it was like Guy wasn't really publicly Thouser, and the Kamen Riders were very much a separate thing from the business dealings.
Yeah.
And Guy didn't want it to be about Kamen Rider fights, and he got to make all the rules.
Yeah.
plus
Probably because he knew he couldn't win in a Kamen Rider fight because he was the villain.
Yeah. So there's also he manipulated the events a lot with the Raiders. Especially with the situation of and the very last one. The politician competition kind of deal, where he showed as much negativity as possible to convince that one human gear, the hip hop human gear. I can't remember his name.
MC, check it out.
I love that human gear.
He is an angel.
I forgot about him.
Guy manipulated those events to show human gears can't be trusted, because rather than having Arc directly influence this human gear, he showed the world not show the world at least, but he showed during that broadcast that this human gear willingly transformed it into a Magia in front of everybody.
It was all about getting Hiden and selling the Zaya specs and taking Yumagear out of production so that he could sell Zaya specs. Even though they are not competing products, they serve completely different functions. I don't think Guy actually knows how a business is run.
Well, Zaya specs, I believe, were supposed to give or allow humans' minds to process almost at the rate of a human gear. Yeah. So why do you need a human gear to do something when you can do it yourself?
I get that, but
the same deal with the Raid Risers.
But on the level of Yumagear are more workers. Being able to function mentally on the level of a Yumagear doesn't make you run a convenience store faster. They don't have to be competing products. You can market them so differently that people will be like, I want both because I want to be able to connect to my Yumagear to transmit them work data. Using both is actually kind of the best option, and I just don't think Guy knows how a business is run. The one thing about the business arc I did kind of is that we got a break in the middle with the matchmaker arc, and we took that moment to kind of dunk on Guy a little bit.
Yeah.
That arc was fun because I like Go Busters, and it was nice seeing Blue Buster and Yellow Buster again. That was a lot of fun. But also just the fact that Guy comes is made a match with her, and everyone's kind of dunking on him because he's not a genuine person. He's honestly the most fake human in this show. In a 24. Show full of
He's
androids.
45. And
in that moment that we get to see Yua kind of turn away and laugh while everyone's dunking on him, I'm like, okay, Yua, you're still there. You're gonna come back. They've got a plan for you. You're not agreeing with his garbage. You're just forced to work with it.
I think the best part of that arc is also Izu teaching the other human gear how to curse.
Yes. I love her teaching Match how to swear, which I'm convinced is just anytime you see her and Shesta glaring at each other, they are just swearing back and forth in binary at each other.
But yeah, the Guy, great suit though. Thouser is a beautiful suit.
My only complaint is, this is going to come out of left field, I really, really wish that the Thousand Jacker thing it's called, I wish the toy version was actually to scale. That's my biggest complaint with the toys. I hate how everything's so dinky, especially going an example.
They're made for 5-year-olds.
Yeah, they're scaled. They're scaled to
They're scaled.
Yeah, if you're a 5-year-old small Japanese boy, they will be perfect size for you.
I mean, Shot Riser is a decent size, but
It is a decent size.
it's a gun changer.
The Wonder Ride books are a decent size too. Like I got these guys chilling here. Like these are chunky.
Mine are over there, but
I don't know where mine is. I have the Metsubo Jinrai Ride book.
Nice.
I am still in the market for a Shot Riser. So if anybody finds one, message GBakes anything on Twitter.
And action.
Why did we not open the show like that, Reggie?
I don't know. I just thought of it right now. Take 3. but yeah.
My thing with Guy is like I really don't like this weird like the Dan Kuroto's the guy that Gentoku like the weird like hard comic thing they were doing for a while. Like I don't know. Like it's exhausting, honestly, when they're just like sitting there screaming.
With Gentoku, a lot of his comedy was because his character was scaring his daughters.
Is that what it was?
Yeah,
like that? Okay.
His daughters were scared of Gentoku, so they wanted to lighten him up a bit.
Okay,
that's where a lot of his comedy comes from.
Though. But okay, I respect that more than just being like Dan Kuroto 2 Electric Boogaloo. That's fair. I respect that.
No. Like Dan Kuroto is I love Dan Kuroto. I don't think they should ever try to make Dan Kuroto again because that was such a lightning in a bottle based on Iwanaga's acting. Like you can't do that a second time.
Yeah, it's just like because I hate characters who just scream all the time. Like, why are you screaming? Relax, sit down. Like it bugs me. So like when they go off on their tangents, it's a whole thing. I'm like, shh, I'm just gonna mute for the next 10 minutes. All right, there we go.
Yeah, that's Guy Thouser, pretty much the primary character from Thouser. Of course, like we mentioned before, there was that American, branch president who kind of usurped him, and then Guy had to go create his base in the basement with the
Leon
his own little
or
yes, that is the power.
I love the puppy though. I love
the Thouser dog.
I was kind of hoping he was going to get some kind of like second suit with the dog kind of thing, like dog armor. Yes. I thought that would have been amazing. Like an upgrade
like the power custom, yeah,
or just like a battleizer with the dog or something. I think that'd have been sick.
Yeah.
But if you can hear the sirens, I'm sorry. But yeah, like I was expecting literally anything because he was in the show long enough, like just a little something. But yeah, nothing happened. Yeah.
So here, before we go into the special characters, for the movies and stuff like that, let's talk a little bit about the monster / the conflict of the series, the arc itself. This satellite with programmed AI to see all of the horrors of humanity and determine that we should just not exist. I mean, like the fact that it's literally.
Why are you swinging that around?
Because I can. I want to make a point.
Okay, YouTube, we want to point out that is a toy.
This is the DX 20th anniversary DN driver, now available at GameStop, possibly, except if you're in New York. I never saw one. Anyway, I had a point I wanted to make about the arc real quick. I love Kamen Rider Arc. I love his suit. But the coolest thing is that he's a Fang guy. Oh, wait, wrong show. I was talking about Kiva. I haven't seen Kiva that much. No, but
I love Kiva.
He's also Aizen, if anyone watches Bleach.
Beating her.
Oh, really?
He's Aizen?
Yep.
Really? That makes a lot of sense.
The driver is Aizen, yeah.
That makes a lot of sense. It was so sweet.
Anyway, going back to the actual Arc 01 for a second, I love how his belt's a 3D printer.
Yeah.
Well, essentially the same thing with the 02 driver. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I just love how he utilized all the weapons and then threw them all away.
He can just make more. It's fine.
Yeah, like me, I'm a huge fan of the game Overwatch, and that makes me think of Reaper. Like one of the characters in there where he'll have dual shotguns. He shoots, and rather than reload them, he just throws them on the ground and pulls out more.
Yep.
That's essentially what the arc does. But yeah,
the arc thing with the weapons, I thought it was a really cool thing. Like it's just cool in general. I'm down for that. But like when you had the Unlimited Blade Works scene at the end with Hirobi versus Naruto, I thought that was so cool just because of that. It was like, oh yeah, cool. You can make weapons. Why not? I'd plant them everywhere if I could.
Yeah. But yeah, the fact that this corruptive force is like, well, I mean, obviously it was corrupted by Guy first, but that it had so much influence on even on human gear that were produced after it was created. Like, this kind of shows how terrifying this situation is. And then with Naki's awesome moment of hacking all the Ziospec users.
Yeah.
Like, it shows that technology does have its vulnerabilities. Like, and in that instance, like the Ziospec hacking was like, you can't rely on technology for everything, or like you can't. It's not supposed to be like this all one, you're good to go kind of situation type thing.
Yeah.
The arc itself, I'm glad that they made the arc driver and the arc 0, like the arc driver and the arc 1 key. I would have liked to see if if they didn't, like, 'cause this is how I actually interpreted it, is that because pretty much actually Naki is the only one I think that never wore the arc 0 driver to transform into arc 0. But I feel like what they were doing, or what they intended to do before they did the whole Aruto plot twist, I mean, with the whole picture thing, is probably they could have had the arc 3D print itself a body to transform to arc 1.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's probably what they were going to think about before they did the whole Aruto is arc 1 situation. And his dedicated follower as the longer red hair Izu. What are you guys' thoughts on her?
Useless.
Yeah. Moving on.
My thoughts on Azu are complicated because I feel, again, like she's in the opening essentially, and I feel like they kind of had plans for her, and we're going to have her kind of disguise herself as Izu and kind of come in and out of the show.
Yeah.
And I think that would have been really interesting, having her talk to Aruto about things to get some information, and then have Aruto be like, talk to Izu about it later and have Izu not know what he's talking about. And Aruto thinking it's maybe some kind of glitch in her memory.
Yeah.
But I did kind of like the way that she manipulated Aruto into thinking she was Izu, and that it only really worked for a second. And I think if the show had gotten to be a bit longer, they might have done something more with that. But I do like that when she first shows up, he kind of buys into it, and then by the time we get to the next episode, he's like, stop calling yourself Izu, stop acting like Izu, you're really, like, don't do that. And she just keeps doing it because she wants to keep that anger going. So I think she got to do some pretty interesting stuff, but not enough interesting stuff because the hiatus kind of forced them to fast track her.
Yeah.
Like, she definitely does a little more in the movies, but like, I don't know, she like doesn't do anything. So I feel no strong way either way, honestly, because she just doesn't do anything.
I mean, I would love to know what their plans originally were before the pandemic hit. The one thing that I will say about Azu is mostly what Sono said. I wanted to see her integrate herself more with Hiden itself, and then like be like, I was truly the traitor this entire time. All of your plans and battle secrets are now known by Netsuko Jinrai because of me, Dio. I mean, you know what I mean.
Yeah, it just feels like she really got aside from Ikazuchi, who got the shortest end of the stick, I feel like she really got underutilized for how much potential she had as a villain in the show. But I think it's just because she happened so late she literally came in at the end of the hiatus. I do see that Peacemaker said that they had no plans for Azu. And that was just a cool visual, which is a thing that I was aware of, but I feel like that was maybe something that they were keeping in the back of their mind. After they had made it as just like a potential thing. Hey, Dress.
What's up, Dress?
Hi, Justin.
Yeah.
He brings up something very interesting, though. There was a COVID Village special where Aruto teaches Azu about the 0-1 toys.
Yeah, that's one of the like clip show ones. She pretends to be Izu and is like asking him about things, and as he explains them. I don't remember if he actually finds out it was Azu at the end.
Yeah, I can't remember either.
I can't remember if he found out at the end that it was Azu, or if he kept just thinking it was Izu. My memory is very, very bad for small details like that.
What I do find funny, though, is that, like, you know, in that special, though, she was 100% just Izu. But when she tries to corrupt Aruto into turning into Arc 1, all she does is just change the color of the streaks of her hair.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't, like, she doesn't somehow retract it and actually look exactly like Izu. It's... Okay, he does. That's the first clip of Arc 0. Okay.
I thought so, but I couldn't remember. Dres knows how bad my memory is. He kind of functions as my supplementary memory for that kind of thing.
There you go.
Oh, please. Dresden has gotten my friend Shanks to spend money on stuff. Although, Dresden, you have not used your powers on me yet, surprisingly enough.
So, of course, when we're also talking about, you know, the forces that our heroes fight, we have the Magia, which are, you know, using the Zetsumarai's keys. Like, you know, I like the fact that, you know, the Magia used a lot of, you know, the same kind of base suit, and then they just added onto it. I mean, we see that again with, like, Saber, but I think that, honestly, the Magia poured it off a lot better.
You know,
especially the Oniko Magia, you know, the ancient bat. Like, that's one of my favorite suits, and I wish that key could have been used by a writer. I
like the Mammoth one, but
that's the only Magia key I have.
Oh, nice.
Actually,
so speaking of the Mammoth, I had one other quick point about what's this mecha form again? I forgot.
Breaking Mammoth.
Yeah.
CG. Why?
Called CG.
So let me ask you this: do you guys think they blow the CGI budget every season with these like giant mecha suits that they use like twice?
Yeah.
I don't know if they blow the whole budget, but they blow a lot more of it than they should. They really need to. I don't like. Do those even sell? Do the toys for those even sell that well?
They tend to
keep making them.
They tend to lower in price over time a lot. I know that, like, with the Time Machine, you know, that's the only way, like, you could get the O's Bride Watch. So I did a split with somebody on that, and then the Gates Time Machine is the only way to get the D-End Bride Watch. Also,
I guess it's a good way to sell some extra gimmick toys, but it's. Yeah. I mean, I love the Power Dizer. I loved Power Dizer's function in Forza.
Power Dizer was utilized a lot more, though.
Yeah,
but I mean, like, from like past that, like, and I love Dragon and Chimera and Wizard, but they were so underutilized. I mean, and like from Wizard forward, it's like we really don't need these.
Yeah.
I mean,
swing arms,
like
Trotter on.
Like, I understand why they're doing it, but then again, I'm using Saber as an example because, from what I understand, the King of Arthur ride book comes exclusively with the sword, right? Like
you can get it with you can get it from the County Door set too, so you don't actually have to get the sword.
Oh, Peacemaker says, I think the giant mecha are a toy requirement as they have been around for several years. The Ghost Ship and Iguana from Ghost. I try to forget that Ghost ever existed.
Oh, see, I love Captain Ghost. I love Captain Ghost. But again, I really don't think these are necessary. Because, I mean, okay, they've been around for a bunch of years, but Sentai stopped using Team Bazookas for like half of a decade because they didn't sell.
Yeah.
And the only reason they brought it back for Zenkaiger is because it's just the Henshin gun, but bigger. So if you take the actual Henshin gun toy and put it with your action figures, it'll be the right size. So they don't actually have to make another toy.
You just have to flip the little panel things on the side of it.
Yeah, I feel like, especially for Rider, it's so unnecessary because they don't do enough with it, and it uses more CGI budget than they want to spend, so I really wish they would kind of phase it out.
I just think they look not great too, honestly. Like most of the time they don't put enough CGI. Like there's not enough money in their CGI budget to make it look good. So like it kind of just turns into like two toys clapping each other on screen. Like, yeah, hey, cool. All right, episode's over.
Yeah.
I mean, also Breaking Mammoth had the unfortunate thing of, like the only reason they brought it down is because was to fight the Zaya knockoff, the Geigers, and like
and
it's just
neither
like
of those were important.
Yeah, bad CGI robot versus bad CGI robot.
Yeah. So it's just put that into some other stuff. Put it into better suits or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
Though I will admit when they had the Geigers and you get that shot of Jin like sitting on the steps in the middle of that attack and Naruto's like, "Why are you doing this?" That shot was great. That was a really strong moment, but I don't know if it justifies the entire having of these robots.
Yeah.
I mean, going back to the Magi real quick, their designs were incredibly basic. The Mammoth one is my favorite. Then there's Dodo, but I consider Dodo more of a rider's. I consider Dodo more of a rider suit, honestly, than a monster of the week.
Kind of like
it's been more than a bunch of episodes.
Dodo is very much kind of a proto rider because he then does evolve kind of into Ikazuchi. Like if I look over at, I have the button set in there. Assassin was the secret pin in that button set. So it's him and the Dodo Magyar, and it essentially is a proto rider. Kind of in the way that like in build, Bloodstock and
Night Rogue.
I don't know why I consistently forget what it's called, even though Rogue is in the rider name.
Night Rogue.
Kind of how those are. How Night Rogue is sort of a proto rider for Rogue itself, and all of that. Dodo is very much kind of in that category, in my opinion.
And then, of course, besides the Magia, we also have the Raiders, or the Corporate Riders, or however you want to pronounce it. Guys, they'll shell to, hey, you want to fight these Humagears? Here's your own belt that you can use to transform, which is literally just a deconstructed Shot Riser.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because if you look at all the riders, like their base suit is basically Vulcan and Valkyrie. Like if you look at the legs downward.
Look, you should sue for intellectual property infringement. She probably doesn't have the copyright to those belts because she made them under Guy, but she should try. She should work on it. I'm sure he didn't file. Actually, he might have filed copyrights. It seems
if he can
like
make
he
money,
would do
he probably
that.
did.
Yeah.
Which also brings us to the point is that, when Naruto, as Arc 1, disables all of their chips to be able to transform, why didn't Guy just supply them with Raid Risers so they could transform still?
Because he was... I mean, Naruto did, snap his belt in half, and he was probably more concerned with himself at that point.
No, I was a glorious golden god, and now I'm just a man.
Also, probably episode count, but that's a whole other thing.
Yeah, also that. Also, a thing about Guy, going back to your theory that Naruto may have been a Yugi, I thought that Guy put himself in a robot body. That turtleneck was just way too conspicuous.
I would have believed that, yeah.
And his whole
I know that when he first showed up, he didn't have one, and I had forgotten about that, but it's every time he would, get beaten up later in the show, his clothes would be all torn up, except the neck of his turtleneck, and it was just weirdly conspicuous to me, especially because he's like, I'm eternally 25, and I'm like, okay, you've put yourself in an unaging robot body. Yes, I get it. And then that wasn't what happened, and I was kind of disappointed, because that seemed like a thing he would do.
Shooting Wolf Raider should have been a thing instead of Orthos Vulcan. Fight me, everyone. The first time I saw that, I was like, is that a one-headed wolf or a two-headed wolf? And then it dawned on me it's a two-headed wolf. So
Orthos, yeah, two-headed wolf. So it's kind of representative of the whole Naki-Fua relationship. Plus it does form out of Naki's Japanese wolf key. So.
Also, Peacemaker brought up a point. I know the Soto Premium said the Time Magazine made Toko Ledger stop doing Soto for a while because of how bad they sold for him, so I have no idea. I need to deconstruct this. There was a Soto set for Time Magazine from Geo.
They did. they had like they had its own like special set, and yeah, nobody really wanted to go for it.
It's the time, my G.
I like this little comment from Peacemaker. Mr. Assassin, or Little Assassin, is the dot of Metsubo Jinrai.
Karen.net.
He is even in the final poster they released of them. Okay.
He is. He is. He was on a lot of the Kamen Rider store merch that they released, which I thought was very cool. I was glad he was included because arguably he did more in the show than Ikazuchi did, which is sad because I love Ikazuchi, but man, Assassin-chan did play a much bigger role in the show.
But yeah, so oh wow, we've been talking for almost 2 hours. But
sheesh.
let's obviously let's move on since we we're talking about the special characters, the characters that appeared in movies and or specials. Like obviously we're gonna talk about the first one, Archa's Papa, one of the best writers that we know around.
He's the best character in the series overall, so that's fine.
Yeah.
Ishigata, easily.
Ishigata.
Yeah.
Such a beautiful suit. One of the best literally the best dad in Kamen Rider when you think about it. Yeah, because especially with his reappearance at the very end of the of the arc, him talking with Arto within Zaya, to kind of remind him of like, you remember your dream, like I know that you're struggling right now, but you know that I'm always with you. Kind of that talk. Zorio was in Metsubo Jinrai, fight me.
He kind of was. If the Zio the Zio-01 movie is anything to go by, he did help kind of start Metsubo Jinrai.
Yeah. Because
he didn't like the way that Aruto's grandfather was treating Yumagear, because he was like, Aruto's grandfather, Will, essentially was like, hey, don't we get paid for our labor? Don't we get anything for what we're doing? And he was like, we'll talk about that one day, maybe. And, him and Sorio were like, well, we really, if Sorio's like, if I want to live in a world with my son where I get to be his father instead of just, his babysitter, I need to do something about this. And, it all just kind of got out of hand.
I mean, something for me is I haven't seen the movies, so
Ichigata is awesome.
Ichigata is
very cool.
Also.
He's really cool.
So does the Proto Zero one. That suit's awesome too.
Yeah, suit.
I love how much that suit calls back to Ichigo.
Yeah. I love, like, Gary. One thing you're gonna see whenever you get to watch the movie is that, like, whenever he moves, like, this little scarf collar piece leaves a trail of red to like kind of resemble the scarf.
Really, it's so cool.
Oh, that's cool, man.
Scarf,
so
that's all
cool.
it is.
Plus, he also has, the Cyclone Riser, the repaint of the Force Riser.
Yeah. And
the Rocking Hopper key.
I mean, let me ask you guys this: in your opinion, what's the best jingle from the Progress keys?
Oh, I like Rushing Cheetah a lot. I really do like Rushing Cheetah.
Rushing Cheetah.
I don't know if it's my favorite. I like Sting Scorpion a lot too, though. But I'm deeply predictable and biased by my favorites, but also I'm deeply weak to Scorpions. Look, y'all, I just really like Scorpions.
For me, honestly, it's the bass kick hopper, like that. Like, I think that's just so cool. And honestly, all of them with that weird, like, Max Sam voice that they all have, like, authorized, return to a rider kick, all that kind of stuff. Like, I thought that was so cool. And, like, nice little touch. Kick. Yeah. And so any of them that do that, but I think Rising Hopper is probably my favorite one. Or just, I should say, the 01 belt in general. The waiting noise.
It's a really good, like, standby noise. I actually had somebody talking to me the other day, like, saying, like, I want the belt just because of that.
Yeah, it's really cool.
But yeah, like, for For me, I would definitely say secret material, hidden metal. Metal cluster, it's high quality.
See, Metal Cluster Hopper's jingle just reminds me of like a random techno song.
Just Darude Sandstorm plays when he henshins. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
It's shiny.
I'd watch that show, honestly.
It's so shiny.
So Reggie, I heard you're giving all your 01 figure arts.
No, I'm not. Who lied? Who has told you this lie?
The voices in my head.
Well, the voices in your head are wrong, and the voices in my head say destroy them. But yeah, Ichigata though, really great character. I wish we could have seen more of him. I'm glad that it's revealed that it was kind of like a secret test of character for Aruto, like for his convictions. He wasn't fully corrupted by the arc kind of deal. I know that you're the only one who could stop this, so that's why I had to fight you, just to prove that you have the heart to do this.
Yeah.
But yeah, honestly, like I said, Soryo Ichigata, best dad in Kamen Rider. You can't convince me otherwise. I mean, Ogami-san, obviously, we just got introduced to him and Saber, but for now,
I love
Otoya
Ogami.
totally
I mean, my heart will forever belong to Skull as the dad rider.
Oh, okay, yeah, I forgot about Skull. Yeah, okay, so Skull and Ichigata, top dad writers.
Yeah, I mean, look, I came into this franchise because of Skull and Shroud, so
nobody's perfect. But yeah.
Final thoughts on 01?
Oh yeah, we've been running for 2 hours, so we could talk about, if we need to talk about S and all of those guys from the real time movie, we can do that another time. But yeah, so any final thoughts on 01 though, guys?
Give it a chance beyond the first 12 episodes, because once it's late teens, early 20s, it picks up. Very fun series. I look forward to getting it on Blu-ray. Reggie, stop making me want to buy all the 01 merch. I financially can't afford it.
Well, if you go on Mandarake, some of the progress keys actually are like in the 600 to 1,000 yen mark.
Reggie,
so you should be.
I'm just gonna keep bringing this up because I can't. I have more of these to afford. Okay, I have more of these Shattered Glass Transformers to afford. I have adulting to do. I can't afford all of this 01 merch.
But it's all great.
It
is great.
You will obey the arc. The arc compels you to buy more 01 merch.
Hey, Optimus Prime, what are you doing here?
You wanted Optimus Prime? You've got Prime. Well, I mean, I have Amazon Prime, but that's probably not the same thing.
Peacemaker, do it, please.
I am not going to make Sono cry.
It's not hard. It's not hard to do, I promise you.
Sono is a very dear friend of all of us.
Wow, Dresden has reached my goal. Dresden says that he has 501 drivers.
He keeps buying them!
Honestly, I was going to buy a friend 01 driver so I can make it just my 02 driver, but I just haven't had the time. But in the meantime, I am going to end up buying that person's Arc Zero
now,
driver.
Dresden, buddy, I'm talking directly at you and my camera. Are you trying to be the next Zeron Zephyr? And have one different and have a 01 driver for each different progress key?
Yep.
I mean, it's goals.
He's working on it.
Doesn't you have more financial power and financial prowess than I do?
You have kudos. The power here.
Oh, 02 driver, cool.
Yeah.
Anyway, so.
But yeah, my final thoughts on 01. Like I said, I walked through the airport and I looked at that mural and was like, I hope that this show is as good as the potential I see in it after that one episode. It is very possibly my favorite Rider show now. It's did so much more than I thought it would, than I thought it could. It was a great start to a new era. It stands. I looked back when the Blu-rays for 01 were announced. I pulled up that mural and I looked at it and I'm like, Aruto deserves to stand there with Takeshi Hongo and Godai Ichigo and Godai Yusuke. Sorry, I watched Kuga, so I'm thinking about Godai and Ichijo because I love Ichijo so much. I love Ichijo so much. He's my favorite character in Kuga. But I'm like, Aruto deserves to stand with them and to be the representative of this era. He's earned it. This show has earned it. It's just it feels so weird to me that such a recent show is my favorite. Mm-hmm. But 01 brought so many things to it. And I'm like, Naki is here. Naki means the world to me. And it's just I don't think there's anything else I could have asked for from it.
Yeah. Carl, what do you think?
I don't. Yeah, I don't know. This show's great. It still hasn't topped my all-time favorite, which is Blade. Which, because again, I like being really sad.
No, I feel you there. I feel Blade is it's like tied with Blade for me. Blade, because Blade was absolutely my favorite.
Definitely a top 5. I love this show. And just for what they did with, like I was mentioning earlier, all the Showa things that they harken back to with 0102, even just them being more Showa as opposed to, Fuwa's more Heisei style rider in general, stuff like that, I think was a really nice touch on top of just being a great story and great characters. This is one that I will add to the list of things to like show people to get them into Kamen Rider. And I think that's saying something. Like this is one of those shows that you show to be like, you don't want to know what Kamen Rider is? Here you go. There you go.
Yeah,
go watch that.
My getting people into Kamen Rider, my line is pick an era and start at the first one. Yeah. And if you're really into Showa stuff, it's not what I recommend for most people, but I know some people who are really into like old Godzilla and stuff. And I'm like, if you're into that, start with Ichigo. If you're like, start with Kuga, start with Double, start with 01. Like I was also like, can I keep that line going? And yeah, no, 01 is an amazing place to start.
Yeah. It's just a great all-around series, and I think it has a lot to offer pretty much anyone who's going to watch it. So a little bit for everyone.
One last thing that I will say is that it also teaches you just like a lot of friendship and like that you need to accept people for who they are and all their flaws. Like it took a while for Fuwa to fully trust Aruto. It took a while for Fuwa to fully trust the Fumi Gears. So I can kind of relate to that, honestly. I mean, in the world today that we live in, it's hard for people to trust each other. But yeah. So, any other thoughts? I guess we're closing out the show now, Reggie, because we didn't have a question segment.
Yeah, we didn't have a question segment. We forgot to put up, like, ask us questions.
That's mostly my fault. I'm sorry.
No, it's okay, man. Like, it's been an exhausting week. So
for everybody.
Yeah. So everybody, like, I want to say, thank you for coming on, Sono, Carl. It's been great to work with you guys.
Absolutely.
Definitely want to bring you guys on to future episodes. You guys can definitely work with Gary on the Blade episode. I still have not finished that series, so and I need to figure out a way to finish that series.
That episode is gonna have like 3 guests. That episode is gonna be like 4 hours long, Reggie. So if you ever want to like leave the show to me to talk about Blade, let me know. I'm not gonna say no to a 4-hour show.
I'll probably just sit out of that one and just watch it. To be honest,
but let me talk about Tachibana for 4 hours. I will do it.
Tachibana-san.
That's
love
that. You don't even talk
so
about
if I recall correctly, didn't my buddy EB hook you up with the gear?
He did. I don't really collect belts, but I've known him for a while, and he was like, "Hey, we're getting the CSM Garen stuff. I feel like you need that." I'm like, "Yeah, buddy, you're right." So I haven't unpacked it yet. It's all still in the box because my room and office are a disaster at the moment, and I'm trying to get shelving worked out. But he did hook me up with the CSM Garen set, which, you know, thanks, man.
Awesome.
I love it. I love the fact that I own it.
See, I want to own the what's it called, the Blade set, but unfortunately, going back to what I said earlier, I cannot get it without going into financial ruin.
He let me pay that off over the course of like 6 months. I was very grateful because he knew they were getting it. So as soon as he knew they were getting it, and it was long before it came out, he contacted me and let me pay that off over a couple months as I had the money. And I was very grateful.
I am so jealous. I want a Garen rouser. Anyway, that's for like after we start recording, we can talk about other crap.
Yeah.
Anyway, so
everybody, we're gonna close out the episode. Thank you so much, and remember, I swear I could do this a lot better before. How am I not? Okay, that's a fail. But I was gonna say it's never over.
Wah, wah.
But, you know, thank you for watching. We'll catch you all next time. Bye.
Bye.
solo show